So recently I did some videos on this, the Carrera Vengeance disc LTD, disc limited, limited disc, whatever, this limited disc slip differential. Yeah, whatever it's called, I don't care. Get a lot of haterization on, especially the first video I did on this bike, probably from 13-year-olds who do skids and wheelies and think this is the best bike in the world. It certainly is not. Not much has changed on this bike. I have just swapped the stem because I wanted to put the shorter stem on my trail bike. However, there's big news in the world of the trail bike because it has been replaced by a new machine, and that machine is this. It is a HAIBIKE FullSeven 5.0, or is it SDURO then 5.0? I don't know. There's a lot of letters and words in HAIBIKE land. Yeah, I got this yesterday. I haven't actually ridden it yet. I've ridden from well, I've ridden down the road because I had to get it here from somewhere else, but yeah, I'm kind of excited to ride this thing. If we have a look at the spec on here, to start off, we have some HAIBIKE branded bars and stem, HAIBIKE grips, we've got the Yamaha control unit. We have on here TRP, which is basically Tektro's higher end stuff, G-spec Trail S brakes. I think these are 4 pots, so hopefully enough power to stop this heavy e-bike. We have the SR Suntour 35s. They're not 35s, they're Ions, AION or something, however you say that. To be honest, Suntours, I mean, these are like the worst forks in the world ever, like absolute dog shit. These things, if they didn't have Suntour on and somebody asked me what brand they were, I would probably say Mazzocchi. I say Mazzocchi because I've only just started getting back into riding after about 7 or 8 years. So I'm talking pre Fox owning Mazzocchi. Mazzocchi is what I would think these are if I didn't know that Fox owned Mazzocchi now. So yeah, these seem pretty sweet from what I've kind of sampled, pushing them up and down so far. They actually seem plusher than my RockShox on the trail bike. Yeah, so believe it's a 200mm rotor up front. It looks like it's probably a 180 on the back. I can't remember. We have these. These forks are also boost spacing, so you can fit the bigger tire in. So we got some plus size. I say that with quotations because back in the day, 7 or 8 years ago, they were literally just 2.8-inch tires, or you know, the general thing for a trail bike was a 2.3, and a downhill bike was a 2.6 or 2.8. So now they're plus size tires. So we have some knobby Nick, which I have on the trail bike, 2.25s, which are pretty grippy and all of that. There are some Addicts compound. I don't know what that is, whether it's super sticky or slow rebound or both or what. But they must be good because it says performance. We have these Rody Tripe 35. Why would you call your ones Tripe? Tripe, I don't know. Yeah, but basically pretty wide rims, so you get that super kind of square, chunked out profile on the 2.8-inch tires. Forks come with a little mudguard there. The frame is, this bike is 120mm travel front and rear. We have a RockShox Deluxe. I think the technology is debonair. I don't know what the technology is. I don't know any of this shit, to be honest. That comes with not riding for 7 or 8 years. So anyway, it's the Yamaha PWSE motor. It's not the top of the line Yamaha. I should also stress that this bike is a 2019 model, so it's at kind of end of season. You know, HAIBIKE themselves directly don't have these in stock. I got this from Cycle Republic, who are now sold out of these. Yeah, so mated to that, we have a HAIBIKE, I believe, yeah, it says there, HAIBIKE crank on there. At the back, we have nothing on this side, so I will stop the camera and spin the bike round. And there we go, it's been spun round. So yeah, it certainly gives you a workout spinning this thing round. So yeah, down to the business end. Actually, we've already looked at the motor on the other side, but we have a bash guard, which is interesting because obviously the motor, I won't say it's a bash guard, it has a plastic protective cover. And yeah, that sits out further. Can't really see it, but just there, it sits out further than this bash ring. So the bash ring, to be honest, is pretty pointless, although it probably will save your fingers from being shredded off by the motor if you accidentally do something stupid down there. Pedals are just cheapo. I don't know what these are. Probably the same as the Carrera. Actually, they've got slightly better bearings than the Carrera, but they'll be swapped out for some Kona pedals that I have anyway. Seat post is again HAIBIKE, and the seat is HAIBIKE. Doesn't seem too bad. Down here we have SRAM in NX11 speed. I believe that the cassette is SRAM. It doesn't really say anywhere on it. Sometimes these bikes have Sunrace crap on them. But yeah, I'm guessing it's probably SRAM NX. We have a SRAM chain on here, which I believe is the chain for this group set. Chain ring wise, touch test it, but it looks like an alloy one, to be honest, which is pretty decent. Just looking at the cranks, they kind of look square taper from here. Should better fucking not be, because they will just drop off. So yeah, that is the new trail bike. We have a key here to lock the battery into the frame. You can charge the bike, the battery in the frame, which is pretty convenient. That thing's probably gonna come out at some point when I'm riding. Forks have lockout, which is pretty pointless. Don't know whether the rear shock does, but yeah, I can't wait to go out and test this out. So before I actually go out and ride this bike, I would like to highlight some problems with the bike. These are not problems with, you know, the brand HAIBIKE, I don't believe. These are problems with Cycle Republic, where I got the bike from. So this HAIBIKE branded grip here, not that one actually, sorry, it's this one here, has been over torqued, and it's basically broke through the bit where it clamps, and it now just spins around like it's a motorbike throttle or something. The grips are pretty crap, to be honest, so they would need changing, because they're pretty bold, and they're as bold as me almost. Pretty smooth, not very sticky, so pretty shit grips, but it's easily replaced and cheaply. But yeah, I need to spin the bike again now. One thing that I have just noticed when I've been turning the bike around, because of the design of the frame, and how I have my brake levers, well, none of the levers clear the frame, so in the event of a crash, they're just going to smash against the frame. But so anyway, I can have them, because that's how I need them when I ride. You know, that's a normal setup. Yeah, so back to the problem. Yes, we have quite a sizable, you know, you can hear that there, quite a sizable gash in the linkage, and overall we have you know, light marks. Bloody do have to apologise, I have trouble kind of using the viewfinder on this phone. It's quite laggy. Yeah, so overall we've got a big gash there, we've got a broken grip up there, and just marks, slight marks everywhere. Bottom of the fork here. Bearing in mind I've not, you know, ridden this bike yet. Again, well, that's a bit of muck, but the rims in places have got little not dings, but just little marks on them, and the spokes have got paint missing from them. So yeah, I'm going to take some high quality photos of this as evidence and see what Cycle Republic have to say about it. But for now, I'm going to go out and I'm going to ride it and see how this thing likes to party out there. So it is quite a while now since I was out on the HAIBIKE. Yeah, pretty impressed with today's performance. I managed to get 25 miles out of it around Cannock Chase. I kind of did I kind of did the whole of the Monkey Trail. That's about 14 miles on standard mode. I had a little bit of turbo to do a second run on one section. So I turboed up the hill, turboed up the climb, turboed down the descent. And then there was a bit of turbo towards the end just to kind of deplete the battery, and a little bit of eco as well just to see how it rides. So yeah, one thing I will say is I know it's a heavy bike, but these brakes aren't brilliant. They're adequate, but as far as, you know, being able to just, you know, grab a handful of front brake and actually lock the front wheel up, which I can do on my Avids on my other bike, there's none of that. They do slow you down, but they're not super sharp. You're going to struggle to, you know, sort of endo this thing without really throwing your weight forward, because obviously you got the motor in there. So yeah, the brakes aren't the best. Suntours, as you can see here, I've absolutely smashed it through all the travel. To be honest, it's supposed to be 120mm, but that to me looks like more than 120mm. I don't know. I believe these forks have spacers inside that reduce it to 120mm. Pardon me. So eventually I will disassemble these forks and remove the spacers and get it up to, it's either 150 or 160mm. The back end was just ploughing through stuff. And again, is that a little, I think that's not, there's a little bit of oil there, so I don't know whether that's normal. It's not usually normal on a shock, but that could just be oil that, well, to be honest, it feels like a light grease, so it might just be that kind of light grease that they usually put on forks and things. So I'll give that a bit of a wipe down and monitor that. But as you can see, it's absolutely smashing through the travel on that as well. I got the Kona pedals on here off my trail bike, so far better than the shitty standard alloy ones. And I also swapped out the Vitas grips because, as I said earlier, these horrible HAIBIKE grips, that one's broken, so it just spun round. I will probably have to have a look at cutting the saddle down. Reason why, it's one of these frames where you got a kink here, so the seat post will only go down so far. This saddle height seems pretty perfect. I don't really need the pedaling efficiency. I don't need the seat right up my arse because I have got obviously the motor helping me out, so I can just hang off the back of the bike, let it plough through stuff. That's pretty cool. The gears, they performed flawlessly. The only thing I will say is you can, whilst you're not putting a lot of strain through the crankset and the chain, you can feel, I just noticed there is actually a split link on here. I was hoping there'd be. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Yeah, you can hear the mech and the cassette do sound like they're really under strain when I'm kind of pedaling and changing gear, especially uphill. Probably shouldn't be doing that on an e-bike, I guess, uphill, but you can't always judge the gear what you're in, especially when it's my first time riding a 1x11. Suspension wise, I didn't have to, I didn't mess about with anything. It seemed pretty well set up straight out of the box. I did ground the what do you call it, motor protector plate, whatever you call it, it's plastic thing. I say ground it, I didn't smash it against a rock or anything. I just lightly brushed over a kind of log. When you pedal on this thing, there is a little bit of delay, I guess, maybe a little bit of notchiness, and the reason for that is obviously there's a freewheel going on here, as you see in the front, and then you got the freewheel in the back. So you got the engagement at the back, and then an extra bit of slop from the engagement at the front. I will say on the non-drive side, for some reason my ankle was not getting on with this kind of really square crank arm, kind of the center chunkiness. I kept like hitting my ankle. As you can see, my ankle's a little bit red there. Yeah, and as luck would have it, I was actually riding along and I found, well, I actually rode over it. I'll put some footage up. in the middle of the trail was this, which is a spare, what do they call it, scuff plate or something, I forget, but basically your battery cover from another HAIBIKE, another SDURO, different graphics on there, but I have a spare one because if this has fallen off somebody's bike, it looks like mine could fall off. But to be honest, I'm guessing somebody has taken the bolts out and then just used like this. I don't even know how this works. I was trying to look at how you get this thing off and I couldn't work it out. I know obviously I got as far as undoing the key and then it felt like it released something, but I just couldn't get it to clip out. That reminds me, something I should mention, these Suntour 20mm axles are absolute wank. There's no thread on this side. It's like some weird expanding arrangement, but it doesn't wedge inside. It like wedges on the outside or something, and you can but you can like push it in or something, and then well, I think you have to undo that. I can't be bothered. It's an absolute fucking ball ache. It's rubbish. One thing I forgot is kind of rubbish is I don't know. It's either the shape of the bars or, to be honest, these levers are very, I mean, I wound them into where I would want them to bite, and they're kind of very angular and aggressive out that way. And the bars are, they could probably do with tilting forward, to be honest, but I was getting quite a bit of like hand and wrist pump, which is kind of accentuated by the fact that I'm always on the brakes, because even when I'm going up hills I'm on the brakes. One thing I don't really understand why it's designed this way, this display doesn't come off as far as I'm aware, so you've got this shit through axle that's absolutely a bastard that you have to fiddle with. And then you can't even put the bike upside down to do that because you've got the display on the handlebars that isn't removable. At least, I just can't see a way that removes it all, to be honest. So yeah, overall very impressed. You might be wondering, is the bike fast on descents? Obviously, it's fast going up. And you would actually be surprised because the weight of it just carries speed and plows through everything. To be honest, it felt like it had a lot more than 120mm travel, front and rear. I'll actually get a tape measure now, so just bear with me. So the tape measure says that I've only had actually about 110mm out of the forks, which would explain why there's 10mm there, because they must go pretty much all the way through the stanchion there and right to the bottom. What would explain, to be honest, the fact that it feels like it's got more travel. These tyres are absolutely humongous. The amount of grip is insane. The max PSI on these tyres is 37. So yeah, usually I'm used to tyres that are like max 55 PSI. So 37 just shows you the actual volume of these things. They are, I think they're a kind of soft compound as well. And obviously the fact that it's a 27.5. The only other 27.5 that I've ridden is this, which is an absolute shower of shit when it comes to the diabolical forks on the front. So yeah, I would say if you're on the fence about getting an e-bike, just fucking get it. Unless you've got a really small car. I mean, I've got a Volkswagen Passat and it's got a huge boot, and this thing only just fits in there, to be honest. So yeah, if you're driving a Nissan Micra, maybe don't do it. But yeah, that's the one thing I don't like about the bike, probably the only thing, just the portability of it. There you go. Yes, and I so nearly forgot to mention something else which had to go on the bike. I had to remove the front mudguard Reason being, it sits there. It's held on with 3 bolts, and when I turn the handlebars to put it in the car, this ends up like facing down, and it just gets bent, and feels really rigid when it's off the bike, but when it was on the bike it was like bending in all sorts of different ways. And it probably is designed to bend like that, but it was making me wince and I didn't want to break it, so unfortunately I had to remove the little mudguard from the Suntours just so I can lay the bike down properly and not kind of damage anything.